Gusher.
Good evening. Welcome to tonight's Meadville Tribune Forum for the candidates for Crawford County Commissioner in the May 16th primary. We have the 5 Republican candidates because they have the challenge side in the primary election. Again, I'm Keith Gusher. With me is Rick Green, the editor of the Tribune. We appreciate the candidates' willingness to appear this evening and be questioned about important issues facing Crawford County. And with us tonight on the dais, you see from your left, Eric Henry, Brenda Braden, Scott Schell, Roger Schlosser, Todd Seipel. Now, each candidate will have up to a 2-minute introduction of themselves, and then we'll begin questioning of the candidates. Each candidate will have up to 2 minutes to answer the question. We drew lots before we came on the air to start have the order that we'll start in, and we'll begin the questioning after we do giving the candidates an opportunity to introduce themselves. One housekeeping thing, I don't know if it'll show up on camera, but with the 2-minute mark, I've got a nice yellow card. It's sort of like a soccer referee. I'll let you know when there's about 30 seconds of the 2 minutes to go. And then if you get close to the 2 minutes, I'll put the red card up, and if you go a little bit beyond, unfortunately, you may have to call time on you, kind of like a game show. But again, we appreciate everyone being here. We have the 5 candidates. They are ready to go. And in the order we have, we'll start with Mr. Henry. Mr. Henry, the floor is yours for a couple minutes.
Thank you, Keith. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the forum. I appreciate Cool 101, Armstrong, and the Meadville Tribune for putting us on. It's always a good time to be able to find out about what a candidate stands for. My name is Eric Henry. I am a current county commissioner and owner of Meadville Ambulance Service. I reside in West Beach Township with my wife and my stepdaughter and a myriad of horses and animals I can name at this point. I have spent the last 40-plus months as a county commissioner here. I learned a lot. It's a very difficult job and tough job to deal with. At the end of the day, I want to run a second term to continue the momentum that the commissioners have now and all of our staff have done. We've done a tremendous job when it comes to holding taxes, keeping taxes low, and progressing through things at the county that are going to change us for the next several years. I would appreciate your support at the primary, and also I look forward to hearing the questions from the Tribune. Thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Next up is Brenda Braden. Ms. Braden, the floor is yours for a couple minutes.
Thank you. My name is Brenda Braden. I'm from Conneautville, and I'd like to be your next Crawford County Commissioner. I have worked as a municipal secretary-treasurer for almost 12 years, and I bring that knowledge I acquired with me and feel it will be advantageous to helping me adapt to county-level government. This knowledge includes a good working relationship with members of PennDOT, various solicitors, the Auditor General's Office, and a number of other entities. As a county commissioner, I plan to keep an open line of communication with the local municipalities as well as local fire departments. I am an EMT with Fellows Club Fire and Ambulance of Conneautville and their treasurer. Volunteer fire departments and the EMS crisis are important topics for me. I desire to bring transparency and accountability to the county government. Residents, taxpayers, constituents should all be able to know how and where their tax dollars are being spent. Responsible spending and sound fiscal management of tax dollars are key. My experience with planning and implementing budgets at the local government level will help greatly with that. I intend to listen to public concerns and ideas. Being accountable not only for tax dollars but also for my actions are of utmost importance to me. I want to serve the people for a better county. I am not a politician, and I have no desire to be a stereotypical politician. As a county commissioner, I will be administrator of a government entity, not a politician. I plan to channel the best of the best supervisors that I have worked for and follow their excellent example. I hope you're willing to put your faith in me and elect me as one of your county commissioners. I will do my best to live up to your expectations while being transparent, open, honest, and operating with integrity. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Next up is Scott Schell. Mr. Schell.
Good evening, and thank you, Keith. I am Scott Schell. At the present time, I am the county coroner, which I have been for the past 12 years, but actually I have a total of 22 years in the coroner's office. Being the chief deputy coroner under Patrick McHenry. I live in Cockerton with my wife Kim. We have kids and grandkids and dogs, and we live down by the high school. I have been able to maintain or cut my budget in the coroner's office every year that I have been in there. The reason that I wanted to pursue the coroner's or the commissioner's position is the fact that I think I've probably been in more homes in Crawford County than any other person. Just haven't been. We literally deal with thousands and thousands of people. What I see is good, hardworking people who go to work every day but still struggle to make ends meet. And so my goal is to make sure that department heads and elected officials maintain the line when it comes to budgets, and that we can keep our taxes as low as possible due to the fact that they struggle. We have a lot of people that struggle. I'm also a volunteer firefighter, such as Brenda. I am an EMT, have been for 48 years. I presently run with the Cochrane Volunteer Fire Department. I'm out in public a lot. So if you can lend me your support, I would greatly appreciate it. Thank you very much, Keith.
Thank you. Roger Schlosser is up next. Roger.
Thank you. I too want to thank the public that's hopefully tuned in tonight and listening on the radio for what's going on here, and say hello to those people. I appreciate these folks up here, these 5 people, because public office is a difficult situation, if you ask me, and I got a feeling the county commissioner is one of the more difficult, with your exception. And I know each of them do a good job, okay? We've been very lucky to have some great county commissioners over the years. I've had the good fortune to be all over this country. I think I've been in every state in Alaska and done business with somebody in most every single one of those states. And I sort of look at this job a little bit differently, maybe, than other people do. But I'm concerned about jobs. Jobs. And that really is the bottom line for me, okay? I know there's all kinds of jobs available, but unless you've got a sustainable wage that can support a family and support taxes and those kind of things, you know, where are we? I've never really understood what the strategic plan was for this county as far as not only, you know, development of relationships with their companies to come in here, but retention of companies to come in here. I have been involved in a little bit of that as we go down over the years. Personally, I am very fortunate, like Todd, to have grown up in Sagertown. Great spot. I love this county. I love the people that are in this county. We have great workers. We have opportunity for education. We've got wonderful public access. We've got natural resources out the wazoo. And I just think it's a great place to live and work. Thank you.
Thank you very much. And Todd Seipel.
I'd also like to thank everybody for tuning in. I hope there's a lot of you out there, because this is an important forum for us to be at. I was born and raised in Crawford County. I attended Sagertown High School and moved on to Mercyhurst College from there, where I got a bachelor's degree in petroleum geology. After college, I moved to California, where I lived for 12 years and actually used my degree in a company that drilled for steam. It was kind of different. It was really neat opportunity for me to work at. After that job, I got into general contracting. I became a licensed general contractor. After 12 years, I decided to move back to Crawford County. That's where I was born and raised. It's much better, I think, environment for children. I wanted to raise a family here. For the past 14 years, I've been in the maintenance department for the county. I run the Crawford County Fairgrounds. In the winter months, they usually have me come in to either the courthouse or other county-owned buildings, where I do a lot of renovation, remodeling. Therefore, I get to actually work with the other people in the county. You know, for example, treasurer's office, register and recorder, adult probation, juvenile probation. I think my experience with working with all these people, seeing how they run their departments, will be a great asset for me becoming a commissioner, and I hope I get your support. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Rick will start off our questioning, and we'll begin. First person to answer will be Eric Henry.
Crawford County hasn't had a property tax increase since, I believe it's the 2019 budget. With inflation these days affecting everyone's bottom line, if elected, do you foresee a tax increase at all during your term?
That's a great question, and you're welcome. At the end of the day, we spent 3+ years working really hard to cut where we could cut and find ways to make our money last longer. The number one job of a commissioner is to take care of people's tax dollars. And in a county where 1 out of every 5 people is over the age of 60 right now, 1 out of every 4 people are in poverty level, that's really important for us to take care of. There won't be a tax increase in 2014. We'll be one of the only 3 commissioner boards in the last 30 years to have their entire term without a board having a tax increase. I think it's nothing short of a miracle when you talk about inflation and the cost of general overall expenditures for employees and wages and benefits. I'm very proud of that. And that takes a team effort. That's not just the Board of Commissioners. That is our fiscal office. That is our managers, our department heads, and our employees who all have to sacrifice a little bit on their own to make sure that that works. But I'm very proud of that fact, and I'm very proud of the other commissioners that work with me. We spend time doing our budget every day. And if you do the budget every day and you don't wait till November, you're going to have a better chance of getting that budget passed. So there'll be no increase for 2014. We already have that prepared, and my goal is to maintain that for as many years as we can. Thank you.
Thank you. We'll go to Brenda Braden next.
Just a correction, Eric, it's not 2014. We're all 10 years younger if it is.
Oh, is that what I said? So
But thank you.
I feel younger. So.
I would not be in favor of a tax increase. There are too many people in this county that are struggling, especially elderly. It would take a lot for me to implement a tax increase. And if you plan your budget well and you plan it right and you keep, like Eric said, keep track of it through the months and make sure that you're within it and you look at your years prior and know what you spent years prior in those months, you can project where you're going to be. And it's a good way to stay within the budget and not have to do a tax increase. Not in favor of tax increases at all. Like I said, there's too many people out there hurting.
Thank you. Scott Shell.
As I mentioned in my opening remarks there, I've actually meet people face to face, literally thousands of residents in Crawford County, and they struggle. They sincerely do. This is important that the elected officials, and I think our present county commissioners have done an excellent job with this, but every department head and every row office has to maintain exactly what they're doing to prevent any type of tax increase. It's just not going to work well for multitudes of people in this county, especially our elderly who just struggle to live day to day. So I personally would do everything in my power not to have to raise taxes for anybody.
Thank you. Roger?
Listen, I don't disagree with anything any of you have said, and my general take on the tax situation is that it's not a good idea. I spent a fair amount of time on the Pencrest School Board before this current group, quite a few years ago, and I think we went maybe 10 or 12 years without ever raising taxes, all right, in Pencrest. But I've looked at so many budgets that are equal, if not bigger to the county, and I applaud what's been done up to this point. I always think about, are we cutting too much muscle and getting into the bone, okay? But I don't know the opposite side of the coin either, okay? I've not really analyzed the budget. I've not looked at line items, and I don't want to just yet, okay? I want to let the process get a little further down the road. I certainly am against any tax increases, but I really want to get educated about it. I believe there are some instances that if you were to do a reassessment, you would find some properties that very well may be reassessed at a lower amount, okay, in Crawford County. I think that's a legitimate factor to consider. And I have a little experience in this. Marquette used to do their own appraisals, okay, until 2008, all right, when the Dodd-Frank Act was put in place. The Dodd-Frank Act made it so that you couldn't appraise and lend money to a place at the same time. So I've been in many, many, many of these houses in Crawford County as well, and I have a good feel for that too. So, thank you.
Todd?
In a situation like this, when there's 5 people sitting up here and people watching on TV, the #1 question is going to be taxes. I obviously, just like everybody else, in no favor of raising taxes at all. There is no doubt the commissioners that are in place have done a really good job. Departments have held their budgets online. There always are certain emergencies that get taken care of. You have to deal with them on a department by department basis. As far as I'm concerned, I would continue, hopefully, to never have, I'm not going to say never, to not have any tax increases. Thank you.
Thank you. Next question, we'll start with Brenda Braden. Like many things, the pandemic has affected the Crawford County Fair. As a commissioner, if you're elected, do you feel county government should take more of an oversight role with the fair and what it's doing?
I don't know exactly what the county's involvement with the fair and control of it is. I'd have to research that more, but you have a fair board. The fair board should have the main control of what happens at the fair, and the commissioners could review it, but I think it should be left in hands of the board. The board is appointed for a reason. Let them do their job. Take some of the load off of the commissioners. Let them do their job, bring what they want to do, what their projections are to the commissioners for approval. But I think it should be left in the hands of the fair board. Those people are very dedicated to their each individual areas and for promoting agriculture, and it definitely needs promoted. There's a lot of kids that don't even know where an egg comes from. They think it comes from the grocery store. They don't understand it comes from a chicken. So, yeah, definitely let the people that are involved and know what they're doing and know what the best way to present the fair and the different aspects of the fair. Let them handle it.
Thank you. Scott Shell.
Well, undoubtedly, when the pandemic hit, our fair suffered big time, to the point that it was actually shut down. But do the commissioners need to oversee the fair board? I would say, yes, there needs to be some oversight there. But I would have to agree with Brenda that the fair board needs to be making decisions and presenting them properly, and following all the rules and regulations that must be done. But I would think, I would just think I would agree with what you said, Brenda.
Yeah! That's
Okay,
awesome.
that's it.
Roger Slosher.
Can you put that in writing?
I have a very soft spot for the Crawford County Fair. My dad was involved in that fair intimately as, you know, in charge of the agricultural issues of the fair. I can remember the 50th reunion when, you know, we had the parade and had all the queens come back. So I really feel deeply about the Crawford County Fair, okay? But I also get the financial aspect of the Crawford County Fair. All I really want to say about that is I want to get it back to the way it used to be when it was so everybody was so anxious to go to the fair. I don't know what the price points are without having a look at the numbers and stuff like that, but I do believe there's some ways around that, okay, through some county-private partnerships. And I've already done some discussing with that issue with a couple of people, okay? That's too big an asset not to use and, you know, make some hay at the Crawford County Fair every year. I would say probably most people are disappointed that, you know, it's turned into maybe something less than they always remember. That may not be a fair comment. I don't know that, okay? To me it is. And that's something I'd like to really work on, all right? I have great feelings about the fair.
Thank you. Todd Seipel.
The Crawford County Fairgrounds is definitely a soft spot in my heart. That's where I work most of the year. The commissioners actually own the 63 acres that the fairgrounds is on. So to me, there definitely has to be a little bit of oversight on their part. But there is also a fair board, which is elected positions by people in the county for the fair board to run the county. A couple years ago, the commissioners had the Fair Board sign a paper called an MOU, Memorandum of Understanding, and it actually took away a lot of the rights that the Fair Board had in their ability to run the fair. I think we need to let the Fair Board do their job. That's what they're there for. I also agree with we need to get it back to what it used to be. When I was growing up, the fairgrounds was the center of our summer and fall. You looked forward to going to the fair. The pandemic obviously hurt it unbelievably bad. It never did totally shut down, just to let everybody know, because even in 2019, the 4-H department set it up so kids could take their animals there, and they live streamed even the auction part of it so people could bid online. The Fair Board's there for a reason. Let them run the fair. Thank you.
Thank you, and we'll conclude with Eric Henry.
Thank you. This is a great question. In 2020, when I became a new commissioner, we did have some tough discussions, as Todd said. The reason that the county commissioners have to have some oversight to the fair is the board is actually an extension of county government. There's one of only 2 counties in Pennsylvania. Greene County is another county that's actually a county fair board. A lot of other fair boards, like the Warren Fair Board or the Cochrane Fair Board, are non-profit boards. The actual county fair board is an extension of county government. In fact, in 2020, they weren't filling out the forms, but everybody who works as an extension of county government on a committee must fill out an ethics form. And so we had the fair board members fill out ethics forms because they're actually part of the county government. The question for me as a commissioner as it comes to oversight is very simple. When the solicitor of the county, a simple question, if we run short of money during a fair and there's a $50,000 deficit, who pays the $50,000 deficit? It's the taxpayers. And so at the end of the day, that's why there needs to be some oversight. I actually like how it's working now. The Fair Board is doing a wonderful job currently. They have taken the time to review their spending. They have a budget in place for one of the first times in a long time. They've made cuts where they had to make it, painful cuts, because people like country music and country acts. But country music and country acts has lost money for years, and those numbers are very clear. I want to get back to what it should be, an agricultural fair. My daughter loves the fair. She rides horses. My wife loves the fair. She rides horses as well. And so that's what the agricultural part of the fair should be, is an agricultural county fair. I appreciate the Fair Board for all they're doing, and I think the county commissioners are working well with them right now. Thank you.
Thank you.
Our next question, we'll start with Mr. Shell. Now, we'll stay with the fairgrounds for a moment. A lot of the public considers the fairgrounds an untapped income source for the county. How do you see the county boosting revenue from the fairgrounds?
From my understanding, and I haven't studied this real in depth, but the fairground is a fairly active place. There is some income that comes in there. I know the horse arenas and some other buildings are used on a regular basis. Could there be some items that could be presented to boost some more income into that area? Well, I'm sure you could probably have some type of concert or whatever the case may be. But at the present moment, I'm under the understanding that it's bringing in a substantial amount of money now. But can it be boosted? Absolutely. There's always programs that can boost that property. So.
All right. Roger Schlosser?
I think there's a cow event this week, as a matter of fact, at the Crawford County Fair, isn't there? And yeah, the horses are there a lot too. Listen, I've thought about this fair a lot, and I'm going to go back to what I said just a little bit ago, and that is that I think there's a great opportunity for some additional revenue via some private sponsorship stuff, okay? Not only for the acts and the grandstand performances, but every single thing that goes on at that county fair. There's just too many people involved not to do what we have to do to boost the revenue stream enough to make that the kind of fair that we all remember it and want it to be, okay? Again, I say that not knowing diddly squat about it, okay? Eric, you obviously, and you work there, so I just don't know. but I feel very confident there are ways to boost that revenue. That's all I have to say about the fair.
All right. Todd side?
To me, the fairgrounds is underutilized. Last year, we had 9 paying events during the summer. This year, we have 12. Both years, 6 of them were the same horse show. The fairgrounds needs to be promoted. Somebody needs to go out and solicit acts to come in, other shows to come in. Horse shows are huge right now. Last year we had a dog show come in. Somebody needs to go out and get these shows to come into the fairgrounds to try to generate some revenue every weekend. 4-H is a huge thing up there. 4-H is free, and it should be. So I agree with letting them, they get to use the fairgrounds for free. The other thing that nobody's looking at is how much money does using that fairgrounds every weekend generate for the city of Meadville, the city of Sagertown, the Quickville area up there. We have horse shows where we've gone around and counted the different license plates from states. 8 different states have come to horse shows. They're not sleeping up there. They're staying in hotels, they're eating in restaurants, they're buying gas at our gas stations. Name it. The fairgrounds definitely can bring revenue into the county. We also do camper storage up there, which, since I've been there, has grown from roughly $13,000 my first year to over $60,000 this year. The first year I worked up there, we probably had maybe 20-some campers. We're around 230, 240 now. The fairgrounds should generate revenue.
We're going to have to stop you.
Nope, I'm
at
good.
that point. All right. Thank you. Mr. Henry?
A great question as well. The fairgrounds is 62 acres. And what people need to realize is there's a $200,000 budget attributed to it, including the wages of the maintenance workers that are there. Our taxpayers currently reinvest and pay into that yard and the land 0.1 mils every year. So we cover the rest of that with $90,000. That's rentals and storage. And Todd is right. The fee, the amount of money that came in from storages has went up, but we increased the fee, and that's important. 26 weeks out of the year, the fair actually is secured and closed. And that's because the people who store expensive cars and boats there don't want other events going on when they have that there. They're paying us to do that. I also agree with Todd. 4-H is very important and it should be free. And there are other nonprofits that are also up there that also we don't charge. I will say that we did add a fire school this coming up in September. That's really important to me because it's more centralized. Those folks are going to have some classes there. But at the end of the day, the taxpayer has to decide, is it worth the risk to try a concert or try an event and have the taxpayers pay more? We're already investing 0.1 mils of taxes into it. And I think that's important for people to understand. The other issue is people have to realize this is an agricultural fairground. It was created after World War II in the 1940s to start the fair itself. This is not taxable on the county tax rolls. If you create an event style, if you add concerts, if you make it a regular type of venue, like you would in Pittsburgh, you could potentially have the chief assessor tax that property. That's why it's an agricultural fair. So I think it's really important before people think that you should make it like that, it's important you realize you could be taxable as well. Thank you.
Ms. Braden?
I very appreciative of Todd's passion for the fairgrounds and that it should be better utilized. 9 events last year, 12 this year, out of the summer months to avoid conflict with people, stuff being stored and the safety of that. There's a lot of empty time there where things that the fairgrounds could be used for agricultural things. There's cow shows, there's pig shows, there's horse shows. I'm involved with the horse shows. I'm a WPRD game announcer, and like Todd, I agree. You see people from everywhere, and they're bringing income in for the gas stations and the hotels and the food. And Yeah, if it would, bringing even local artists in to do little mini concerts or something to promote your local people, that would be great. But if that's going to, hurt the fact that it's going to be taxed, then market it more. Get some marketing there to get more horse activities there. A lot of people are into the derbies and the demolition. That's not my thing, but a lot of people like that. I don't know if that's considered agricultural or not, but I would say keep it agricultural. There's tons of things you can do as far as animals are related. I know Alexis Vanderhoof with the Four Seasons Equestrian has planned an event this summer that hasn't happened before, and that's awesome. That's one more horse event at the that's going to take place there in addition to the WPRD horse shows, which I know are there on a regular basis at least once a month. Yeah. I think there could be more income generated there.
Thank you very much. Next question, we start with Mr. Schlosser. We've talked about money and we've talked about taxes. How can the county raise additional revenue without raising taxes?
That's the $68,000 question, isn't it? Are you talking specifically the fair or the county in general?
Just talking the county in general, because you try to boost income, take pressure off property tax.
Everything that we've talked about so far, and almost everybody's answers, has dealt with money, okay? Everything. And when it gets down to money, we have to be attractive to outside entities to come into this county and take advantage of some of the things that we've got. Just for the heck of it, I would like to point out, this was in the Erie paper on February 15th, okay? Ford announced they were going to build a $3.5 billion battery plant, okay, in southern Michigan, all right? Yeah, you can look it up, anybody can take a look at it. And you say, well, that's only because the cars are there, okay? And that's where that marketplace is. Virginia actually gave them the better deal, and they ended up going with Michigan, okay? When do we ever get a look at anything like that, okay? I look at this place we have down on 19, and I'm not sure there's anything that's even there operating. I don't know that for a fact. But we have too good of people here, too good a work ethic. Somebody needs to go out there and boost the ability to earn more in this particular county. And there's all kinds of examples of that I'd love to be able to get into.
Todd, Syke?
I think a couple of things we could do are what we're talking about quite obvious. Obviously, the fairgrounds could generate some revenue. The other thing that I think could generate some revenue is if we open up the campgrounds again. The campgrounds was shut down 3 years ago because it lost money. The reason it lost money is because nobody took the time to invest in it a little bit, put some money back into it, have any ideas. There was no general store. The last year it was in operation, they finally got an ice machine. I think if we get the campgrounds back, that could generate a little revenue. We have the Keystone Opportunity Zone down Route 19. That place is ready to go for any industry, any business to come in and set up operations. There are other opportunities like that I think as a commissioner, it should be your job to go out and talk to these people. I mean, obviously, we might not talk to Ford, but, a few years ago, there was going to be a tire burning plant. That never happened. Then it was going to be a mulch burning plant to generate electricity. That never happened. I think we need to go back, look at some of these things, figure out why they didn't happen, and as a commissioner, get together with the right people and get some businesses to get in. We have a wonderful standard of living in Crawford County that people would look forward to.
Thank you. Mr. Henry?
Keith, a great question, except for me, as a county commissioner, when people talk about raising additional revenue, there's only a few ways you can do that. You can raise taxes, which I'm not in favor of. You can raise fees, and I'm not in favor of that either. We try to keep both those things down. I would say to the Keystone Opportunity Zone discussion, we have a Northwest Commission. Commissioner Wiederspan serves on that commission. We have an Economic Progress Alliance. Commissioner Soth serves on that commission. The job of those two entities is to promote economic development within our county. That's what they're supposed to do. Commissioners serve on those boards to be that advocate, to be that the guide, or to help with those decisions. A lot of good things have come from both of those entities. But when it comes to raising revenue, if you're looking to raise alternative revenue and you're a taxing authority and you're a county commissioner, that's kind of scary for me, because that means you need more revenue because your costs have gone up. At the end of the day, what we have to try to figure out is, how can we get more people to come to work? There's 2,500 jobs available in the region. I'm on the Workforce Development Board. Those jobs are out there now. If you bring in another industry right now and it's 1,000 people want to come to a widget factory, I just don't know who's going to work there. That's the problem. We can't find people to fill these jobs now. We're losing population at a record level over the last 5 years, and that's concerning to me. But when we talk about bringing in other growth and stuff, it's a great idea in theory, but the businesses we have here are already hurting with the jobs that are open. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Braden?
I say bring more industry in, more activities into the fair will generate other income. You're going to have your hotel tax, your sales tax, where people are going to be going out shopping for food or whatever, new clothes because they got money at the fairgrounds doing whatever. So the little things like that, they do add up. The Keystone Opportunity Zone is in Greenwood Township, so I'm very familiar with that. And I don't understand why industry isn't coming there. They built a spec building. It took a year before anybody came into it, over a year. They're giving tax breaks to 7 to 10 years for any business coming in there. I think there's just people that don't want to work is the problem. But yeah, industry needs to be brought into the area, some type of thing that is going to get people interested, to be able to want to go work there, to be able to want to make things better here. If people are not happy, they're not going to want to work, they're not going to want to make things better. So it's a vicious cycle. And there's a lot of opportunity out there. There's a lot of things that you can bring in. You need to look at other areas, what's working there, what's not working here, and if it's working there, you got to think outside the box. If it's working there, maybe it can work there, or we can tweak it a little bit so it can work here. Got to look at what's happening in other areas that are being prosperous and try and bring that to this area.
Thank you. Scott Schell?
Our workforce, or I guess, as Commissioner Henry just said, our lack of workforce seems to slow us down in the county as far as expanding industrial-wise. Although I did have the opportunity, and as Roger said, there's some great plans out there. I did have the opportunity to talk to people from Allegheny County who would love to come this direction, but they're concerned about our numbers of people that are available to work up here. But would that generate more income tax-wise for the county? Certainly it would. I think every aspect of industry coming into our area is vitally important. It has to do with maintaining people in our own community. That let's face facts, folks. We have a young population who are leaving the area due to that fact that the jobs they desire are not here. So I would strongly suggest that we form a commission or whatever the case may be, and we look at every idea, put it on a table, and see what we can move forward with.
Thank you.
Next question, we'll start with Todd Seipel. Crawford County is listing the county's nursing home for sale, as it's losing about $8,000 a day, and there's a projected deficit of $5.5 million by the end of 2024. If an adequate buyer isn't found, the current board has said the county will continue to operate the home, but make some significant changes. Do you favor the county selling the home? And if you do favor it, what type of criteria would you like to see for the prospective buyer?
I personally don't favor the county selling the home. If pretty much everybody has read the paper, they know the deficits that they're facing, but the commissioners also put in there that they would change operating procedures. Why don't we change operating procedures first and see if that will work? The county home has been in the community for 100 years, maybe more. People in the county are counting on being able to go to an affordable nursing home where they get wonderful care from the staff that's on there. It also generates jobs for the people in the community. I personally know probably 15 people that work at the county home. I don't think you could sell it to another entity and have them come in and say, oh, we're going to keep everybody. People just don't trust that anymore. All they have to do is look at dad's dog food. If there is an opportunity to change operating procedures at the county home, I would favor doing that before you look at selling it.
Thank you. Eric Henry?
So this is my oversight, the Crawford County Care Center. I go there every Friday. I spend 2 to 3 hours a day. My business experience for 20 years is payer mix, getting paid by Medicaid and Medicare. The bottom line is, here's the quick history. In 2020, COVID hit. The worst stigma ever attached to nursing homes was attributed to media. They said, don't put your loved ones in nursing homes, and no one did. The numbers went down to the point where it got so bad that people couldn't sustain that process. Your paper had the facts correct. We lose $115 a day at 70 beds, Medicaid beds. That's $8,000 a day and $2,938 a year. And what people don't have to understand is when we talk about wholesale changes, these are not changes that you can do overnight. We're talking about rebranding and repurposing, which you can't do right now. You have to wait and see if the sale goes through. If not, you're going to have to look at a whole different model. That whole different model is going to cost some money to do that we have to talk about. At the end of the day, this is not something that's old news. In the last 10 years prior to COVID, 2019 before, we lost $4.2 million. We used to have an enterprise fund that would pay for the care center's functions. They would pay for their roof and their upkeep and all their infrastructure. It had $1 million in it 10 years ago. After we pay for the roof that we're replacing in about 2 months, it's going to have under $100,000. It's going to have $50,000. So over that time frame, all that money has put back into that home. I love the county home. My mom worked there for 20 years. I lived at the QLC with her when it was there. But at the end of the day, we can't afford it. And there's a reason why only 9 counties in Pennsylvania still own a nursing home. And it's because it doesn't operate well under county control. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Braden?
County homes started years and years and years ago as almshouses to take care of the people that had no other options. They had nobody to take care of them, or they had no insurance. If you close the county home, other homes only take the number of Medicaid patients that they are required to by law. So you're going to have a lot of Medicaid patients that have nowhere to go. Your reimbursement rates are not great. They never have been. I've worked in the medical field years ago, and med check at a outpatient psych was $65. You got $8 or $6 from Medicaid, but you got 90 to 100% of that $65 from an insurance company. So it's not that the reimbursement rates have dropped drastically. It's just that everything else has gone up and the reimbursement rates haven't gone up. That's the fault of the insurance companies. There's a lot of things that could be done with the county home since the beds are empty, because people are wanting to keep their family members at home now instead of putting them in homes because of the stigma of a family member being in a home. The mental health, there's a mental health crisis. There's nowhere for these people to go. People are waiting 6 months for a bed in a mental health facility. So, there's an option right there. You've got mental health in the prison system, and so you have the county home adjacent to a county prison. That's an easy transition. It could work. It would take a little bit of work. It would take some implementation, but I honestly think that should be tried before you sell the county home. And it should have been started and implemented before it was even put out for sale. give it a shot, see if it works.
Thank you.
You're
Scott
welcome.
Shell.
Thank you.
I think the most important thing to remember here is the fact that, first of all, if we are losing money due to that, you have to look for the alternative. If that includes selling the place, that's fine. But the number one priority here needs to be the people that live there. If we have to transfer this nursing facility to a private individual, are the people who live there going to maintain the same level of care that they're presently getting? That's got to be important. I don't hear too many people talking about that. I wouldn't think we would, if it's my understanding, if we do sell it, we have to sell it to somebody who has the same rating as us or higher. Am I correct, Eric? Okay. But that's got to be the top priority. Will the people that presently live there still receive that high level of care? And there's a bunch of different opinions here as to whether we could change programs or look at something a little bit different. But nonetheless, that needs to be studied some more. And if it sells, we're losing money, folks, and it's coming out of your pocket. So let's just keep continuing to study that.
Thank you. Roger Slasher.
This is another tough one, okay? I would look at that county home, and my dad was in there, okay, for the last 3 years of his life. I love the place, all right? First thing that pops in my mind is, how does Rolling Fields and Westbury get by, okay? Again, I don't know what we do, all right? No offense to anybody involved. What do we do as far as additional state, Medicare, Medicaid, all the insurances and all that information? Is there money available there? I would have a tendency to look at it black and white from a business standpoint right away, just like these guys have done, okay? I think you have to do that, all right? And then I'd want to start diving into the budget and seeing what could be done as far as that goes. I mean, Westbury's doing well, okay? Let's sell it to Westbury, Let's sell it to Rolling Fields. Let's become a part of them. Let's think out of the box on this, just like it's almost necessary to think out of the box on everything you gentlemen have asked us about tonight, okay? We're kind of in, I don't want to say the same situation that we've always been, but these aren't new problems. You know what I'm saying? These are not things that have not been looked at before down over the years, many times. But it takes some action and some aggressive action, all right, to try to be able to work some of that stuff out. I'd say sell it if you can sell it with some conditions. But I'd sure like to take a look at the business plan first. And I intend to if I'm fortunate enough to be elected.
Thank you. Make our way back to the left side of the podium here. With Mr. Henry, just to follow up on the county home sale. If it does sell, what should the county do with that money?
So that's a good question, and just to clarify a few things, I'll use some of the time. No patient will be without a bed. The seller will be responsible for not only negotiating with our union that's there now, but also retaining the actual residents there. It's a 3-star or higher rating. We'll take no less. That's what we've said. As far as the money for the home goes, there's a large amount of pension debt that the county home owes to the county pension fund. That would be number one. We have to pay that back. That's been sitting there for a couple of years. We haven't been able to afford to pay it. We need to make our pension fund back to whole in regards to those folks who want to retire from there. From that, the rest of it should go into a CD and into our reserve. Because again, we have a $70 million budget and we're still at less than 20% of what you need to be a safe and good business. And so that money needs to be put back into a CD and back into our reserve funds for now to see what else we need to do with it. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Braden?
I do not have enough information or enough knowledge about what's needed in the budget to where to spend that money, to say where to spend that money. I don't have enough knowledge about that. That's something I would have to learn, look into. And when I don't know something, I always look in and dig and dig and dig until I get to the bottom and find it. That's why I've actually done very well as a township secretary, because I delve into things quite extensively. And in answer to Mr. Shell's question as far as will the care level be the same, I've worked as a CNA in numerous nursing homes, and I can say the county homes that I've worked in provided much better care than the private-owned homes did.
Thank you. Scott Shell?
That, if the money that's made from that, as Eric has said, you know, that part of that you know where that's gonna have to go. The rest of it needs to go into reserve at this time, along with whatever money we have in reserve at this time. What most people don't realize is there could be a mass disaster that we don't really think about. And I know from living through 9/11, folks, and dealing with people who had to deal with that in the Commonwealth of Pennsylvania, that there was a bad situation in Somerset County where that county had to pay the cost of everything that happened down there into the millions and millions and millions of dollars. Now, keep in mind that the federal government eventually reimbursed them for everything they did, but they had literally millions of dollars wrapped up in that process of that terrorist act in Somerset County. And we hope and pray that never happens in Crawford County, but if it does, that money's got to come from somewhere, and you have to pay it. So I would say we put that in reserve, and we consider what we do with that money very carefully. Thank you.
Thank you. Roger?
Can I ask a quick question? The budget of the county is $70 million?
Yeah.
What's our capital reserves?
Right to date, right now, if you take the ARPA out, it's going to be about $8 or $9 million.
Oh, that's not really all that much. In my opinion, what gets done with that money, if it sells, is also right into cash reserves, okay? Because that gives you the most flexibility as to what to do with that particular money. I mean, what are you going to do? Pay down debt somewhere? Or, because then you've lost the opportunity to do something additional with that money. Nursing homes, if you follow generally business in the United States, all right, are a hot business, okay? There are people that are out there that are looking to add to their reserve of nursing homes. And I think with just a little more pointed effort, maybe there's a way, to reach out beyond. I mean, that's not going to change. Just like a lot of other business in this country, okay? We've gone through an unbelievable period, and we need to bring not just nursing homes, but manufacturing back in to the fold. In Crawford County, northwestern Pennsylvania, period. Pennsylvania is not the greatest state in the world, all right, to develop any business, help from Harrisburg. But, that money's got to go somewhere, and I never quite understand that. But those businesses are going to have to come back here, okay? I don't believe we make any chips. I don't believe we make any of the materials for batteries, the earth components for batteries. We've got all those reserves sitting up in Minnesota that we aren't allowed to touch. We don't make Tylenol in the United States, okay? That's made in China. I just think generally that is what's going to end up having to happen, all right, in Crawford County especially. And we have great opportunity to do that, by the way, I think, if we can get over some of these labor issues. Good point you made about that, by the way.
Thank you.
To me, obviously, the number one thing is what Eric said. We have to take care of the people that worked at the county home, take care of their pensions, whatever's left, general fund. Then I think, we're going to have a decent amount of money in a general fund left over. We need to form a commission and say, what are the most important things right now where we do have a little bit of money to spend it on? Is it EMS? Is it fire? Is it some other type of nursing home? Is it drug prevention? Anything like that needs to be looked at with a little bit of extra money. As a commissioner, I think it's important that you reach out to the residents of the county and find out what their needs are. Obviously, jobs are one. We're continuously talking about that up here. And if we can pump a little money into something, kids stayed in Crawford County and have good paying jobs here. A lot of other parents aren't. Their kids move away. They like where they live, where they've moved away to. They only want to come back and visit. Maybe we could take some of that money and put it into a commission to see what we need to do to keep our kids and bring jobs back into this county.
Thank you.
The next question, we'll start with Brenda Braden. Crawford County got about $24 million in federal funding during the pandemic. 2020, the county got about $7.6 million in the CARES Act funds. That money was given to municipalities. As far as the restaurants, went to nonprofits, went to agricultural, and small businesses that didn't qualify for other types of assistance. Do you think this money was distributed wisely? Why or why not?
I'm not 100% sure I am on board with all of that. I think a lot of it was, the pandemic was exaggerated as far as what was needed and what was done. I do know the money that was given to the majority of the townships, at least the ones that I work for, was used wisely. Greenwood Township in particular donated the majority of it to their fire departments, or their fire department for expansion and life-saving air packs. I don't know enough about how it was used in different areas and what it was used for to say whether I think it's a wise thing or not. I know a lot of it was used for wages, to supplement wages. I really just don't know how to answer that question.
Thank you. Scott Shell?
I think the money was distributed very wisely. It went to local businesses, small restaurants, those types of things, where they just didn't have the clientele anymore to make ends meet. That money certainly helped them. It was certainly distributed very wisely, as Brenda just said, to the fire departments and the volunteer ambulance services. That was a blessing. But that money went to municipalities first, and then came back to us. And I know from down in my area, my fire department covers one borough and 4 townships, and every township gave the fire department some money out of that for major league purchases. I think the commissioners thought that through very well. I think it was very well, I think you could apply for it easily. I don't think anybody was neglected out of that offer. I just think everything ran very well with that program.
Thank you. Roger Slaughter?
Again, interesting question. When you said distributed, did you mean from the state to Crawford County?
It came from the state, well, federal dollars from the
Correct.
to the state, which then went out to various counties. It was a formula based on that.
So that's your question, is was it distributed
Well,
correctly
but
out to
within
those?
no, the question is, there was $7.6 million into
Yep.
Crawford County.
Yep,
It went out various different ways, help municipalities, help
yep.
small businesses, nonprofit agencies that were hurting. Do you think that money was distributed wisely?
Well, I got to say, yes, I do think it was, okay, because what's the alternative? I'm not sure what you were going to do at that point in time. My question is, did we get our fair share? What did Mercer County get? What did Warren County get? What did Venango County get? I just don't quite understand all that. $7 million sounds like a heck of a lot of money, but boy, you take a look at some of those line items in the budget and, away we go. We're hurting being able to spend all of that in an efficient manner. One thing I'd like to add to this, and it does apply just a little bit here. I believe Todd mentioned it first, but I would like to see us create some help from this private sector out there. There are a lot of smart people in Crawford County, okay? Mm-hmm. Very smart people in Crawford County who know how to make money, who know how to spend money, and who know how to be sure everything is taken care of there. And I just think it might not be a bad idea to have some of their input in some of these issues. And I would be pushing for that.
Thank you. Todd Seibel?
Basically, it's called COVID money. Everybody that's a layman, it's called COVID money. I think everybody that drove around could see that COVID money was being dispersed. Restaurants did upgrades. Restaurants kept their staff intact so that when it finally did end, they were still able to step right up and go back to work once this was over. Municipalities did get money, and most of them did give to ambulance services, volunteer fire departments. Sagertown Volunteer Fire Department has a cash bash every year. They couldn't do it for 2 years. So this ARPA money helped them get through those couple years where they couldn't generate some of their own revenue. But I do know people that applied for this money and got really hardly anything. Now, that's few and far between. For the most part, I think everybody was taken care of. Is there any ARPA money left? Because I know in the beginning there were certain guidelines that they had to follow. Air conditioning, spacing, stuff like that. You know, once they gave it to an entity, they had specific things they had to spend it on too. I think in the long run, there was a committee of people in the courthouse that distributed this money. I think they did a wonderful job in distributing it.
Thank you. Eric Henry?
I may be biased, but the CARES Act committee was first initiated, the chief clerk, the treasurer, and the commissioners and the CFO. The ARPA committee, which is current now, which is the planning director, our ARPA manager, our CFO, and the three commissioners. I got to be honest with you, I think they've done a wonderful job, and they took time to cover a lot of different areas, and I'm just going to give you a few. $28,000 to manufacturing through the NTMA and robotics. $27,000 to the Farm Bureau for agricultural training across the county, which was one of the first ones kind. We were wonderful. It all worked out. We actually helped out the care center. We did retention and bonuses for frontline COVID workers, $500,000. We have $3 million in broadband that we added, and we have partnered with a company. Very soon we're going to announce it, but it'll be transformational. Historical change to Crawford County's broadband and rural areas especially. We improved the courthouse, new windows, new HVAC, and a new handicap ramp. So we're actually up to snuff and up to grade. $250,000 we set aside to work on the QLC building for a project that we have down the future. Those things are important. We put $1 million in public safety. $625,000 in direct injection of cash for fire departments and EMS, radio towers to help improve radio systems, iPad trainings, and I am responding. All those things that we did through this committee was really a hard, thought-out process. We meet every Tuesday, and there is some money left, and we're still projecting to go through that. But at the end of the day, the goal was to help as many people as we could. Thank you.
This kind of was a follow-up question with related to that. We started with Scott Shell. Right now, kind of in phase 2 with the COVID money, there's about $16 million that was given to the county over a 2-year period under the ARPA program. And that money's been used for things such as bonuses to the care center, HVAC upgrades, revolving loan pools to businesses. In retrospect, do you think it was a good idea, if you're a commissioner, to have some non-elected officials overseeing distribution of those funds? You had some agencies where, lack of a better term, kind of farmed out, was turned over to other entities to kind of review, such as the business loans, revolving loan pool. Do you think that was a good idea, or would you have handled the situation differently?
I don't, to be honest with you, Keith, I don't think I would have handled things much different than how they were already handled. I think it went very well. I personally haven't heard any complaints from anybody about that. I don't know what else to add to that, but no, I would say everything I have heard and learned about it seemed to think the program ran okay.
Roger Schlosser?
So that money was basically used as a charitable contribution, right, to the county, people in the county. I'm not sure that is the best use of the money, okay? Now, do I know the answer there and what to say? No, I don't. But a lot of times you take a look at how this money gets dispersed, okay? And I say, you say the farmers got $26,000. Well, you know what $26,000 does to the farmers in Crawford County? Nothing, all right? And the same situation for, I don't know what the one was that you mentioned before it. I want to make a comparison. At Marquette, we handed out about $600,000 a year in Crawford County, okay, in charitable giving. We tried to do that strictly to charities. Didn't always happen that way, okay? And we decided quite a few years ago that maybe it isn't so great to give $500 to every Tom, Dick, and Harry or every charitable contribution, okay? And we decided to really take a look at it and spend the money where it had an impact in the community. And it made sense.
All right, thank you. Todd Seipel?
I think the program that the commissioners ran did a very good job. They can't micromanage. So when an entity comes in and says, you know, we'd like to ask for this much money, or the commissioners decide we're going to give this money here and we're going to give that money there, they can't micromanage to see where every single dollar, penny. There's a little bit of trust that has to go on there. And the people that they're talking to, they know what the needs are for the money that they were given. So to me, in the long run, if there's still some money left over, you know, maybe we've been talking about commissions. Maybe there's some commission that can get together and figure out where some of this money can go. But in the long run, I think they were very responsible in what they did, and it ended up turning out well.
Thank you. Eric Henry?
Just to clarify for Roger, the $27,000 was for an ag lab training for 5th and 6th graders throughout the county. So within schools, the mobile ag lab came into Crawford County. And there was actually hundreds of thousands of dollars given in a farm grant in the first round of CARES Act money. So just to clarify, $27,000 didn't seem like much, but it meant a lot to the lady who trained. Shout out to Kathy because she did a wonderful job. But that really meant a lot to the people. And in regards to how it was handled, of course, I think it was great. You know, the other thing that a lot of people don't know is we actually did inject $300,000 into the Fair Board, helping with the missing of the admission pay, also an ag grant, and paying for the utilities 1 year to help offset those costs. So they do have money to run the fair this year. Those things that we talked about in those committees were well thought out. We have a great planning director. We have a great planning staff, and we hired Deb Frawley, who's a wonderful ARPA coordinator. She does a great job. I wish she would move from Venango to Crawford, and I'd like to have her work for us longer, but I can't tell you how good that this team has done. And the commissioners really sit back and let them drive the bus. We don't micromanage them. That's a good point for Todd. They come to us and say, this is a good idea. We don't always agree with everything that they want to do. They don't always agree with us, but at the end of the day, we've done a good job. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Brady?
So if the commissioners, back to micromanaging, if they tried to micromanage, they would never sleep. There's not enough time in the day to be able to do it. So they have to be able to rely on the different departments to do things, and it's the same thing on the township level. The supervisors rely on the secretary and their other staff to gather the information, bring it to them, present it to them so they can make informed decisions, and that's what you have the departments within the county to do. And I have to 100% agree with Eric. The people in the planning department did an excellent job. They were right there if you had any questions as a township secretary. They were leading you through it. They were helping you. They were awesome. Deb Frawley was amazing.
Good to hear.
Those everybody in that office was absolutely wonderful.
Thank you.
Yeah, I don't think we could have got through it without them.
Thank you. This next question, we'll start with Roger Slosher. Crawford County has not had a full property value reassessment since 1969. I see everyone getting ready to wince with this question. You know where this is headed, right? There was a study by the Center for Rural Pennsylvania, and it found an increase in the years since the last countywide reassessment means a drop in the amount of tax revenue generated per mill of tax. Mm-hmm. So basically, after about 5 years, the rural counties might see a decrease in about 4.5% of their mill of tax. Would you support a countywide reassessment at this point?
Well, this won't be popular, okay? But absolutely, okay? I take a look at everything out there in Conneaut Lake that hasn't been reassessed for way before that, okay, that was involved with the park. I mean, listen, what's fair is fair. Okay, now that's kind of a strong statement to make when you come to dealing with taxes, all right? And I'm not exactly sure how everything would filter down, because I have read some information when maybe that revenue, if it was reassessed, might be lower, okay? That would bother me a little bit. But you can only cut so much fat, and you're into the bone, all right? So how else do you handle an increase in revenues all right, if you're going to do a reassessment. I mean, how can people have gone for so long and not had reassessments? Again, we probably do as many mortgages as anybody does in Erie and Crawford County, okay? And we complain about assessments all the time. Erie County reassessed. You're aware of that? Maybe 4 years ago, 5 years ago, something like that. And it actually turned out to be a very good upgrade, okay? The disparity in the numbers not near as big as what we might think it is, or at least that's what my point would be, okay? I don't want to lose this race right here and now by saying, let's go out and reassess, because I know people don't want to do that, okay? But honestly, I mean, how much longer do you go? Kick can down the road some more?
Thank you. Todd Seipel?
I agree with Roger. I've talked to real estate agents who are selling in developments, and sometimes it seems when they're talking about it that your name depends on how much tax you have to pay. If they know you have money, you pay more taxes than the guy right beside you with the same style lot, the same style house, the same year it was built. Unfortunately, reassessment's going to cost a lot of money. To me, you would have to get with the state to see if there's any monies available to help with reassessment, because that, from what I've heard, might be $10–13 million to do reassessment. 2/3 of the state has done reassessment already. And in a general rule of thumb, 1/3 goes up, 1/3 goes down, 1/3 stays the same. Is that going to happen to everybody? Obviously not. I think in Crawford County, people that own land are paying maybe a little bit disproportionately more than housing. But when you talk to your neighbor about taxes, and you look at his house, and you look at your house, and you're paying $1,200 more than he is, it makes you wonder. So, unfortunately, I'm going to agree with reassessment. It's either now or later, but it's something that we definitely have to talk about.
Thank you. Eric Henry?
Thank you. It's a great question. I was at Mercer last night, and they already did a reassessment, so it was easier for their candidates to answer it. But at the end of the day, you know, the last reassessment was in '69. There was a multiplier in 1986 that does adjust and help a little bit. Here's the issue when it comes to reassessment. There's 61,626 parcels in Crawford County. That's $70 a parcel, which Mercer County got for a price. That's $4,500,000. So at 10 or 11 million, that number's probably a little high, to be honest with you. But the other money comes from a year of appeals, a year of issues that you have to apply to that. You have to hire people externally to do that. Todd's right. 1/3 of the taxes go up, 1/3 of the taxes go down, 1/3 of the taxes stay the same. The problem is you don't know whose that is and who's going to pay more and who's going to pay less. The concern that I have is that's money we don't have. And at the end of the day, there is opportunity for you to adjust your taxes if they're too high. You can do an appeal through the Tax Appeals Board now. You can get an appraisal and get it done. And a lot of entities, taxing entities, don't realize Title 53, Chapter 88, the Consolidated County Assessment, is very clear. Appeals by taxing districts, a taxing district shall have the right to appeal any assessment within its jurisdiction in the same manner, subject to the same procedure and with like effect as if the appeal were taken by a taxable person with respect to the assessment itself. So there is an opportunity if someone feels like in the Conneaut Lake area that they're woefully under-taxed and the school board, the taxing authority, wants to challenge that, they can. I will tell you this, what's interesting. 3+ years as a commissioner, we talked about this today, just in a different discussion. Municipalities are welcome to come to tax appeals hearings, and they never come. I've had one municipality come to that. So at the end of the day, we can't afford to do reassessment, and we don't know where the end result goes. And I know my time is up, but I would say the challenge goes back to our state representatives who really should change our tax base and figure out a better way for us to pay for our schools. Thank you.
Thank you. Brenda Braden?
I'm going to have to agree with Eric on that. Needs to go back to the state and let them find a better way to, or implement a better way to tax. I'm not 100% sure that the way the real estate taxes are done are fair. I do think reassessment needs to be done. You're going to get some houses that have, or homes, properties that haven't been reassessed in years, but their value then was a lot less than it would be now. But you're also gonna have some also that were much more valuable then that are not now, but I think it's going to lean more towards the ones that have a higher value now than they did before. I'm in favor of reassessment, but like, you're definitely gonna have to look at the cost of it, whether the county can afford it, where the funds are gonna come for that, because it's a great idea, and I agree that the state should do something, but the likelihood of that happening is probably not good. It takes forever to get anything done.
Thank you. Scott Shell.
Well, I'm glad I got to answer this question last out of the group, because there's good points and there's bad points to this whole thing. One of my concerns about this is we're going to have to cough up a lot of money to make this happen if we would decide to do it. Not sure where that money's coming from, folks. I just don't know. I just don't know where it's coming from, and neither does anybody sitting here. So the other concern is, someone has to physically go to every piece of property. I mean, that's how this works. I have some safety concerns there. In this day and age, people coming on your property looking at stuff, you never know what's going to happen. But I just, for right now, I would have to say that I don't think we have it in our budget to even initiate this at this point in time. And like I said, I'm going to leave it at that.
Right. Thank you. We'll start with Todd Seipel on this question. On the property map of Crawford County, there are properties across the county listed as errata, E-R-R-A-T-A, which means there's an error knowing who the owner is. Would you support having the assessment office track down these properties to determine ownership, which could possibly generate additional missing tax revenue for the county, as well as municipalities and even the school district?
I think we have to do that. Obviously, if they're labeled that way, nobody's paying taxes on that property. I would have thought by now, in today's day and age, with computers and all that kind of stuff, if we can't find who owns a property, did somebody die, move to another country, I don't really know what to say on how you would take care of that problem. But if there's any way to track people down, like Roger said, they need to pay their fair share. And if there's back taxes due, they got to pay back taxes. Or they sell the property to somebody that lives in the neighborhood, in the area, that can develop it, build houses on it, make it profitable for the county.
Thank you.
A good question, and I do know that there's some of these properties do exist. Again, 61,000 parcels. I'm sure we have a very limited staff in the assessment office, but there is an opportunity for them to find those areas and find the owners. Absolutely, they should pay their property tax like everybody else. And I don't know the total number. I'm not sure if you do either, but the staff there does a good job, and I'm sure if that's the project they're doing, they're working on that now. So thank you.
Brenda Braden.
Yes, I think it should be looked into and researched. I know some of it is tough. Code enforcement officer that I work with, I know in some instances, a lot of these properties are owned by ghost companies, and it's very difficult to track and find out who actually is behind it, who owns it, who even get any contact information for it. That's going to be a stumbling block, a major stumbling block, but I do believe it should be looked into and find out who owns them and get it taken care of. Make them pay their fair share. Everybody else does.
Thank you. Scott Shell.
By all means, those owners of that property should be followed up on to see who they are, and they should pay their fair share. But I have a little bit of experience, folks, tracking down unknown people. And it isn't as easy as you think it is. I've had hundreds of cases over the past 22 years, 23 years of trying to find next of kin for people, and it's not what you think. You think you could get on the computer, like you said, and find stuff, and that's not how it works. We've literally have looked for months and months to find people. So, yes, should they pay their fair share? Yes. Good luck finding them.
Thank you. Roger?
That's their job. That's what the assessor's office, I believe, is supposed to do, isn't it? They are supposed to see to it that the assessment is collected for each and every, or the assessment is on each and every place. I know that's a crass thing to say, okay, but I think that's their job. Let me give you an example why I think so strongly about reassessment. I lived in a house in Sagertown on the worst road in Crawford County. Greer Road, old dump road, okay? I built a 4,000 square feet house there, have a beautiful barn with a basketball court in it, and had about 100 acres. My taxes were just about $3,000 total, okay? My son just bought a house in Limber Creek not too long ago, okay? His taxes, has no house like I do, are probably double or more when it gets right down to it. Should I have been reassessed? Absolutely. I remember when, now I can't think what that guy's name was, the old guy. When he came out to look at my place. And you know what? I might have complained about it, okay? But that's the only fair thing to do, all right? And I think most of these people would feel the same way if it's true, like Eric said, or one of you guys said, that 1959 was the last reassessment. I mean, Jesus, I was only 4 years old. It's ridiculous. So we need to move on and do some of these things, you know? You can't, again, this is another can you shouldn't kick down the road.
Thank you.
We'll just do one last quick question, and then we'll go into the closing. And we will start with Eric Henry. What, in your opinion, is the most pressing need in the county, and why, and how would you solve it?
It's simple for me. I call it the 3 Bs. It's the budget, the building, and broadband. The budget for me is the most important thing. I check it every day. I look at invoices every day. I learned the Eden system through the county so I can actually see the invoice. We can sign off on those things, but at the end of the day, the budget is the most important thing for me. Tax dollars are your tax dollars, and I try to take care of them. I think that's why we've been successful in not having tax raises in 3 years. The building itself, we're going to be able to retool, put people back in the building and save rent. Hopefully 3 different entities if we can, at least 2. That will obviously lower our expenses. As Roger said, you have to find ways to do that. That's one of our goals. And last and most important, I'm just excited about how we're doing this, but the rural broadband project, I can't tell you how transformational that'll be for us. There are people out there, 16% of people in Crawford County have 0 broadband. And that's crazy. In 2023, they have 0 broadband. We have 2 projects going. We have Starlink with 100 units that we're going to pay for the hardware and actually have 1 year of service funded through that. And number 2 is partnering with this new company, and we'll be talking about them very soon. They're going to invest over $20 million in the infrastructure and broadband of rural broadband in Crawford County. Exciting news, wonderful for us. That was ARPA money at work that we matched with $3 million. They're getting state match money for that as well. It'll be transformational, and those 3 things are the most important to me. Thank you.
Ms. Braden, and what's the most pressing need in the county, and why, and how would you solve it?
Well, if you look at from a government standpoint, I would say the budget. You have to get your budget, and it's easy to balance a budget. To manage to stay inside of that budget is a whole nother story, and that's the key. But as outside of the government, within the county, I think the major issue in the county is the drug crisis, the opioid epidemic. It's unreal. It's out of hand. Something needs to be done. There needs to be education. All these people, when they end up in prison because of drugs or whatnot, and they're not getting any education or any help as to learn why they do what they do and ways to stop doing it. There's just nothing in place. So to me, the drug problem is the major issue in the county that needs to be addressed.
Thank you very much. Scott Schell.
As I've discussed in several other public meetings, my top priority is we got to maintain this budget. We got to maintain our tax base, and everybody involved, everybody has to be responsible for exactly everything they did. My second priority was pretty much like Roger, we need to bring in some people that really know what they're doing industry-wise and sit down and talk to them, form the commissions, and see what we can do to bring in business and retain people in this county. But my third one's more important, I think, than anything else, and that's the local emergency services, folks. You know, there's a just a few short years ago, there was 300,000 volunteer firefighters and EMTs in Pennsylvania. Today, across the entire Commonwealth, there's less than 30,000. You are not guaranteed an ambulance. You are not guaranteed a fire truck in anybody's community in Crawford County right now due to the lack of volunteers. And trust me, Brendan knows just as much as I do, because sometimes we struggle to get out the door. We really do. And so there's something that we have to get involved with, whether we start incentive programs for volunteers, give tax breaks, whatever the case may be. And worst case scenario, folks, we're going to have to come up with some tax money to pay people to be placed strategically in certain ambulance stations and fire stations. Because when you need help, you don't want help tomorrow, you want help now. And that is a crisis in this county. For those of you who listen to the scanner, you know that you can wait forever to get emergency help. So that's my program.
Good. Well put.
Roger Schlosser?
Yes, sir. This whole country is disincentivized people from working, okay? That is a huge problem. I just wanted to make that comment. I think everybody knows what I mean about that. That's part of the problem with, you say there's so many people out there available to fill these jobs, and you can't get anybody to do it. But it's the budget, it's the budget, it's the budget, okay? I haven't looked at the budget, all right? My hat's off to what these guys do with what they have done. But again, it's something that's got to be out of the box. I personally, all right, maybe I shouldn't say this, but I'm gonna, have had bottom line responsibility for 2 businesses that were significantly bigger than the county, okay, as far as their budget goes. And those are literally drag out, knock down, situations. But I don't know what the process has been in the past. I don't know how much of the budget the county commissioners can actually affect when it gets right down to it. I remember at Pencrest, out of our $60 million budget, we could only do something like 20%, if I remember right. And is it something like that? It's a very small number that you can actually affect with all the mandates, all right, with Health and Human Services, and I'll bet there's a big one, and Children and Youth Services, and I'll bet there's a big one. But you don't look at just a little bit of it, you look at all of it, okay? And that's what has to happen. So.
Thank you. Todd Seibel?
I'm going to have to echo what everybody else said. Budget, tax money. As a commissioner, it's unbelievably important to every resident in this county how their tax dollars are spent. I think the commissioners right now are doing a wonderful job. There obviously hasn't been a tax increase in 3 years. The next thing, there's a drug problem in this county. And I think as a commissioner, we need to start looking at this drug problem, seeing what we can do to help these people. I don't think throwing them in jail for 6 months and then letting them back out to get thrown back in jail 3 weeks later for now a year. Maybe we need to get in the jails, get something going to help these people kick that habit.
Very well said.
The next thing is what Scott Shell said, EMS and fire. There is a crisis right now. Nobody wants to volunteer anymore. And the people that do volunteer, they find out that the state has made rules. Now they have to take this much more training. Fire departments used to pay for their training, and a lot of them can't do it now. They don't have the budget to pay for their people that want to volunteer to help them in their fire department. The next thing I think is jobs. We need to get good paying jobs, retain our people here. The 5th one on my list is education. COVID killed our education for the last 3-4 years. We're finally getting back into what we need.
Oh, thank you all very much. Now that concludes our questioning for this evening, and we're going to give each candidate up to 2 minutes to make a closing statement. And we're going to start in reverse order. So Todd, it's back to you.
Okay, when I'm elected commissioner, I'm going to bring 3 things to the office that to me are unbelievably important. Integrity, honesty, and transparency. Anybody that's known me my entire life has known I'm a very honest person. The next thing I would like to do is get with departments, collaborate with them. We need to figure out if there's a way to get rid of antiquated systems in our government and to start finding new sources of revenue. If we need to start commissions to do this, we need to do that. We talked about reassessment. We all said we can't kick it down the road anymore. We need to get together and figure out how to do these things.
Thank you very much. Roger, the floor is yours for a couple minutes.
Thank you. You know, we spend way too much on government, just as a general statement, okay? The entire country does. It's absolutely ridiculous and disgusting the way it is. Pennsylvania is one of the leaders of that. We've got, what, more senators than anybody else in the, you know, in the country, and we spend way too much money on that stuff. I have been impressed, by the way, with these people. I guess my job has always maybe kind of been working with people, and you should elect them, okay? It would be great if they all could be elected when it gets right down to it. They're all saying the right things, but at the end of the day, you can't be afraid to step out there and take a little bit of aggravation and take one for the team, okay? I want my kids to have something, actually my grandkids, want to have something, all right, in 10 more years down the road in this county, okay? We have way too many positive benefits here for us not to take advantage of it. I don't know that anybody's done that, really. I don't understand what the, what do they call that, the Economic Progress Alliance? I don't understand that. I certainly want to find that out. But when's the last time a PPG came to town? That's it.
All right, thank you. Scott Shell?
Well,
That's a deep subject.
that's,
It's a deep
yes,
subject.
yes, it is. There's a lot of talent sitting up here at this. Yes, there is. There really is. And the people of Crawford County have some serious thinking to do.
Sure.
As to what's going on. I'm still gonna stick with financial responsibility. I'm still going to stick with the, advancing our, business outlook in the county, and I'm certainly gonna stick with enhancing our emergency services in the county. And of course, we need to do something with the drug situation. Not only are people, going to jail all the time, Todd, a lot of them end up in my office, okay? So this is a serious, serious problem that we need to, and that is what I'm going to continue to do. If you can help me out, I'd appreciate it, and if not, I'll still be your friend.
Thank you very much. Brenda Braden?
I have to reiterate what these gentlemen said. A lot of talent up here, a lot of good ideas, a lot of intelligence. I intend to, all I can say is I will bring what I've brought to the townships and every other job I've ever done. I am always accountable for my actions. I reach out, I talk to, I want to know what the residents think, what they want, and I always try and find out a way to help them. I want to bring that type of value with me as a county commissioner. Fire, the EMS, the volunteers, getting them there, getting people back to volunteering to take care of their own is huge. We need to seriously work on that. The drug crisis is a major issue for me. There's too many people dying. There's a mental health issue. None of this is being addressed, as I said before. If you're in mental health and in the state of Pennsylvania and you need assistance and you're in a prison, you got a 6-month wait for a bed. And so you could be in there for a misdemeanor of just being disorderly conduct, and you get pushed under the rug and forgotten. A lot of this needs to change, and I would like to see Crawford County be a model and start.
Thank you very much. Eric Henry?
Thank you, Keith, and again, thank you for Cool and Armstrong and the Tribune. This was a great forum, appreciate it. I would just like to say this. In my office, on the wall, on a magnet stuck that I see every day, is a letter from a 67-year-old lady from Conneaut Township. It was a hardship letter. She was asking to get a payment plan for her back taxes. I called and talked to her. She ate one meal a day. It was ramen noodles. She cut back on her medication, and all she wanted to do was to keep her home. That's what drives me to work every day. That's what makes me look at every invoice through the Eden system. That's what makes me not want to raise taxes. We haven't raised taxes for 3 years. We're not going to raise taxes in 2024 to get the date right so she understands that. But folks, what you need to understand is, just like a school district, of the group here, of the Democratic candidates for the commissioner, two people can keep a care center that loses $8,000 a day. Two people can get a reassessment and spend $5 million. Two people can spend millions of dollars on anything else they want. And if you pick the wrong two people, your taxes will go up. That's the bottom line. You have to look at everything from a holistic budget approach. All those things sound great, but at the end of the day, what matters to me is that 67-year-old lady who wants to keep her house. I appreciate everybody's time today, and thank you guys for inviting us.
Well, thank you all very much. I get the last word, though. Tonight's forum is going to be shown on Armstrong Cable Channels 100 on Saturday, April 15th at 7 o'clock, and also on Sunday, April 16th at 1 p.m. It's also going to be available through a link at the Tribune's website, meadvilletribune.com, and also on Armstrong's YouTube channel. We'd like to remind you to get out and vote for the candidates of your choosing in the May 16th primary. Thank you again to all the candidates for appearing with us this evening, and thank you for joining us on behalf of the candidates and Rick Green of the Meadville Tribune. I'm Keith Gusher to the Meadville Tribune, and have a good evening.